Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
That's right. My name is Mike Piwowarski, coming to you live from the East Coast. That's the coast with the most, from the co-host with the most, here on the Rundown. 2A views, conservative news, and Craig, guess what day it is?
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
It's hump day.
Hump day!
It's hump day.
Hump day!
That's right, folks. Today is Hump Day. This is the day in which we attempt to begin the weekend, sometimes with success, sometimes not. But as I like to say, the fun is all in the trying. How is your Hump Day going thus far, sir?
Much better than my Taco Tuesday did, Craig. I had yesterday, as folks, I was unable to join you, is because we decided to not do the show from the bathroom where the tacos were revisiting me. So,
that was an executive decision, and I think it was a good one.
Listen, I got to tell you, when COVID first started, right, and we were all doing these Zoom meetings, I put up in my bathroom a cork board with Post-it notes and memos and stuff on it, and it sits behind the toilet, and I would do meetings from there. Because I'm like, they want to do meetings at 8:00 in the morning. That's where I normally am. So I'm just going to set it up and make it look like an office.
You're like, why is there an echo?
it's like a garage office is where I got it set up. That's what I would say. I said it was my garage office. So now there's a whole bunch of people out there watching Craig going, that son of a bitch. He lied to us. That's right. Well, at least Matt Getz can't remove me for lying. So
there you go. Well, you know what? Perhaps I'm wondering if during any of the Zoom calls anyone asked for a courtesy flush.
No. Listen, if you had Smellophone, the meeting would have been over. That was
no doubt.
Scented ass.
No doubt. All right, folks. Well, let's get into today's program. But before we do, let's give a quick shout out to our sponsors.
Yeah, let's say hello to our good friends at Hitman Industries. That's hitmanindustries.net. You got yourself an AR in the past 5 years. You probably got one of their rifles and don't even know it. Well, now you can buy from them factory direct for your next AR build or rebarrel your current AR platform. That's hitmanindustries.net. California Republican Assembly fighting the good fight behind enemy lines. Some of them a little bit different than others. Now you can take part in California's future today. Make sure you check out the California 6th congressional race. Congressional races even more important now than ever, right? Let's see. If you want a good holster, the best tactical concealment holster on the market, get over to Hog Holsters. That's HAWG holsters.com, hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown. That's all one word. No spaces, all caps. Get a nice little discount. And if you're going outdoors, going to the field, decide to go all tactical, want the best gear around, you get everything but the gun at uscombatgear.com.
That's right, folks. Please take a moment, visit our sponsors. The links are in the description to this program. Check them out, spend some money with them. Make sure you tell them it was the guys over at the Rundown that sent you. All right, getting into today's news stories. This first one, well, you know that, so the city of LA, the county of Los Angeles has gone to zero bail, meaning that, they're basically just letting criminals out. If you get arrested for a crime, unless they deem you to be a danger to others, they're basically going to just let you out with no bail. Well, in Chicago, they had already instituted this. And when I say Chicago, I mean the state of Illinois. It's the first state that had done this. Well, now there's a breakdown of basically of all the folks who have actually been released there in Illinois. And, let's just say that I don't know how some of these folks were deemed not to be a danger to others. This is a piece that's over in the Washington Free Beacon. It says, meet the violent criminals roaming Illinois streets thanks to state's cash bail ban. In other words, there's no cash bail, meaning you can't require someone to put money up in order for them to be able to get out. And I just want to read some of the bios of some of these folks. Here we go. One of the released suspects, Nicholas Koser, was charged with 3 counts of aggravated battery to a peace officer. Koser also faces phone harassment charges after prosecutors said he left his girlfriend a voicemail that implied he would dismember her body. Koser was arrested for the alleged offenses in 2022 and remained in jail after failing to post bond. Once the SAFE Act went into effect, however, Koser filed a petition for his release. Then we've got this guy, Terry Johnson, who is already on parole for armed robbery and aggravated battery, was released after allegedly breaking into a high-end boutique. Johnson and 6 other suspects helped steal $68,000 worth of purses and other merchandise. Esmeralda Aguiar, meanwhile, allegedly battered 4 police officers in downtown Chicago, 2 of whom required medical attention. Cook County prosecutor Kim Foxx, who has received millions in campaign contributions from liberal billionaire George Soros, failed to file a detention motion in the case, meaning Aguilar was immediately released. Now, they promised that when they started pushing this stuff, that, well, we're not releasing violent criminals out on the streets. I'm sorry, but in this case, what was it? At least 2 out of the 3 of these folks attacked police officers. You've got armed robbery, you've got aggravated assault, and you got someone who basically threatened to dismember their girlfriend. And they've been released on their own recognizance without bail.
Did not say threatened to dismember, Craig. Said implied they would dismember. Now I'm curious, what does implied to dismember mean? How does that happen? Is that like, listen, I'd hate to accidentally slip with this knife and your head come off. How do you imply that? I'm curious. How do you imply to dismember? What's the legal definition of implied to dismember? Oh, I'd hate for there to be an accident and your legs got separated from your body with the knife. That's how do you imply to dismember? And the second comment is Kim Foxx, the city prosecutor. We know she's, again, Soros bought and paid for. Have you noticed the trend for these Soros women that have been put into office all have these slightly porn names to them? What's the mayor's name there in San Francisco?
London Breed.
Okay, they're slightly porn name, right? How about, what is it, Keisha Lance Bottoms in Atlanta? You got Bottoms.
Well, London Breed, I do not believe it was Soros funded. I'm not saying she wasn't. Okay. It was Chesa Bodine, who was the district attorney, who was Soros funded, who actually got the boot. And that kind of sounds like a porn name.
I'm just saying,
in this case, it's a dude.
Yeah, there's a lot of borderline porn names going on there with the Democrats recently. And listen, I do want to pat the state of Illinois and the county of Los Angeles on the back, Craig, because where inflation is going crazy, they have found a way to reduce the price for people, that need the money. So they've cut the price of bail back so you can afford it. So, I mean, they're doing their part. Yeah.
All I know is, once again, this is why I say Republicans have an opportunity right now that they've never had before, because I really believe the fact that there was not as big a red wave in 2022, Democrats have truly jumped the shark. They are passing policies that are literally harming their own constituents. And it's them. It's clearly them. Even the mainstream media, they're not pointing out that there is harm, but they are pointing out that these are their policies and this is what they're doing, and people are seeing the effects on the streets. And Republicans need to take advantage of this stuff. When I say take advantage, I mean they need to point this stuff out. They need to be looking at folks like Ami Bera of California 6th Congressional District. Yeah, that guy, he's pro-crime. He's for indoctrinating our children. He wants them to be surgically altered. That's right. That's what we need to be doing, is pointing fingers right at them. These are their policies.
Yeah. No, agreed. I had a conversation yesterday with people concerning DEI And I said, well, DEI, how could that be bad? It's on its face value, it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. How could that be bad? I said, have you read their definitions of what those words are? It's just, again, taking back the language and making sure we take advantage of the flaws of the Democrats right now.
Well, you know what? You're totally right, because that's what I've noticed is that when it comes to a lot of these terms, they create these terms, or they redefined words that have had a certain meaning forever. They redefine them, and then they implement policies that are completely and utterly inconsistent with what they claim their goals are. I'm sorry, and I agree. The best example, the most plainest example I can think of is anti-racism. Do you know what the king of anti-racism, the author of anti-racism, wrote a book on how to be an anti-racist, Ibram X. Kendi said? He said the only way to overcome past discrimination is present discrimination, right? The only way in which to the only way in which to overcome present discrimination is future discrimination. In other words, the only way in which to be an anti-racist, an effective anti-racist, is to be a racist.
Yep. Yeah, it's just, again, we saw this in the Second Amendment community, in the gun control community, how they redefine words to make them look like we're the warmongers. Like, oh, we don't need weapons of war on the street. You mean modern sporting rifles? Is that what you're talking about? But get those catchphrases, get that clickbait, and they're winning.
Exactly, folks. Don't just read the headlines. Stop just reading headlines. Yeah. Take the time, go and read the whole article, and especially get to the end. Because the one thing I will give some of these reporters some credit for is they do often report the other side. It's just usually one paragraph, and it's at the very end. And then what you do is find the person they quoted or the organization that they quoted. Google them, find them, and then you'll get the whole story.
The rest of the story. Yep, absolutely.
Like that. All right, moving right along. The Dem version of bipartisanship. And I wanted to bring this up for two reasons. One, let's just say, obviously we know yesterday we talked about the ouster of Republican Speaker Kevin McCarthy. And I found it kind of interesting that the reason why they ousted him was because he chose to work with Democrats in order to prevent the shutdown, in order to pass a continuing resolution. Well, then they turn around and they work with Democrats in order to oust the speaker, because there were only 7 Republican votes in order to oust Speaker McCarthy. There were only 7, and all the rest of the votes all came from Democrats. And by the way, this is when it was funny, because you had Hakeem Jeffries, who put out a statement basically saying, well, we're only interested, we want to work with Republicans, and we want to do so in a bipartisan fashion. Well, if you want to do it in a quote-unquote bipartisan fashion, perhaps an overwhelmingly partisan vote to oust the speaker, the Republican speaker, is not exactly bipartisan. In fact, the interesting thing is, Mike, chances are, and you brought this up in our pre-show conversation, chances are they're going to wind up with an even more conservative speaker who's even willing to work with them even less.
Yes, yeah. Bring back up that title page there for me, Craig, if you would, for a moment. I've always had in English, the English. About it. She's going to, remember she had a problem with the truth?
Yes.
This is good stuff, Craig. You're missing it.
Oh, no, I'm not missing it. No, I'm saying she hasn't lied in the city of San Francisco for a while.
Yeah. Well, then it would be laid in the city of San Francisco, I think, right? But all right, that's a different meaning too. I disagree with you, Craig. I do not believe that McCarthy was removed for working with the Democrats for bipartisanship. He was removed. The motion to vacate was because he made certain commitments prior to taking office of things he would not do as Speaker of the House. He made deals, he made promises, and he violated all of those here in the past week or two. So they moved to vacate him, as they told him they would if he ever did anything. In fact, they had the specific one-person vote to motion to vote to vacate put into that agreement packet, and he violated what he promised the other Republicans he would not do. So they came through on their promise to him. You do this, we'll do that, and that's what happened there. So bipartisanship, Craig. I listen. You know, can we talk about the hypocrisy of this? Now you're having the Democrats say that the Republicans are not being bipartisan enough. I mean, I just it's dumbfounding. I just shake my head and you're like, you want me to comment on what? You want to talk about us not being bipartisanship being the problem? Can we have a conversation? Can we go back to Obama in his pen? And he's just going to do what he wants and bypass Congress and do executive actions. The same thing that we see Joe Biden doing constantly, and we see the Democrats in Congress just shaking their heads, going, "Oh yeah, no, it's the right thing to do, so it's okay. We don't have to be bipartisan when we think it's okay. Although when you're not bipartisan because you have the House majority, we're going to call you on it every time." I wish it was throw punch Thursday, Craig, because I'd be handing them out right now.
Well, but my point in terms of the bipartisanship thing is this: they are not going to get anyone to run for they're not going to elect anyone to speaker who is willing to work with Democrats. In other words, if he wanted something bipartisanship, McCarthy was the closest he was going to get. The Democrats was the closest they were going to get. It's only going to, the speaker, whoever it is going to be next, is only going to be less willing to work with Democrats, not more willing.
Yeah, look at the smile on my face. Okay.
No, I'm just saying. Once again, the point that I'm trying to make is they are not interested in bipartisanship because, like I said, if they were interested in bipartisanship, they wouldn't have voted to vacate.
Right. Yeah. I'm okay with this.
I don't know. I think it personally. I think it makes us look like a banana republic. But hey, you know what? We were already headed down that road, so might as well go. Might as well jump in with both feet.
This holds those rhinos' feet to the fire. Now is your chance to see who you are. Are you a Republican or are you a Democrat? Okay, here we go. We're a tight majority. Let's see if we get the job done based on your Republican and conservative values. And if you're not, we'll call you on it and cast you to the side.
Define get the job done.
What's that?
Define get the job done.
To pass more conservative bills and laws.
Yeah, that won't happen.
See, but that's why I'm saying now it's time to hold those rhinos' feet to the fire.
Right. No, I'm telling you, it won't happen because you have a Democrat-controlled Senate and you have a Democrat in the White House. Yeah, you can pass legislation out of the House all you want. It goes nowhere once it hits the Senate.
That's all right. I'm all right with that.
Okay. Then there you go.
Right,
that's why I specifically asked what is getting it done. If getting it done is simply passing legislation out of the House, then bam. Okay. That is the agenda from this point forward, is to simply pass conservative legislation out of the House.
Correct.
All right.
Which also means approving the approving the budget, right? Because I don't have to pass a bill to be effective. The budget's got to pass the House, right? And if the House doesn't vote on it, we're not going there, right? And then you can start holding their feet to the fire. Get the Democrats to make concessions. Oh, you want to pass the budget? Guess what? We want the VA funded, all right? We want the border wall funded. We want less money going to the Ukraine. We'll play ball once you start playing ball because we control the money.
Well, no, and once again, I don't disagree with that. I'm all for that. But in order to play ball, you got to be willing to play ball. You can't simply say we want everything our way, and the other side gets absolutely nothing, because the other side won't play ball with that.
Right. Yet McCarthy wasn't doing that, right? McCarthy was doing the I'm going to tell this side of the House that this is what we're doing, but then I'm going to give it up to the Democrats anyway. I'm going to say
that was a
question.
You're right in that was a question raised, and I don't have a lot of detail on the whole Ukraine funding thing, but that is something that has been cropping up that I want to get I want to get a better understanding on. But they did get what 8% reduction in discretional spending, which is more than any Republican leader has ever gotten out of Democrats.
Right. Which is a good thing, right?
Right.
But it wasn't what he was empowered to do by the rest of the Republicans.
Yeah.
They said, get this Ukraine funding out of there.
Yeah. Well, as far as we know, all I know is I wish this could have been something that could have been dealt with without it having to be so public, without having to remove a speaker or publicly remove a speaker. Because once again, it makes us look like a banana republic.
I think it makes the conservatives look more unified and it gives them a little more strength.
No, it doesn't make them look unified because the majority of conservatives actually voted to keep McCarthy as speaker. I think they can look more unified going forward, and that's going to be the important thing: is who's going to step up and be that leader that is going to bring conservatives together and drag the rhinos into the into the caucus and make them be a part of this process. But like you said, if the goal is pass legislation out of the House, I don't disagree with that. Let's get conservative legislation passed out of the House. And by the way, it's also got to be, we've got to work to expand our majority in the House and by the way, take back the Senate. That's all got to be part of this, because in the end, that's how you govern, is by becoming majorities and by winning the White House. That's ultimately what it comes down to is being in a position to be able to meet the decision makers.
So let's. I don't know you disagree with this, but I don't think you're listening to the terms I'm using. I said it makes the conservatives stronger in the House. Did not say the Republicans. I said it makes the conservatives stronger in the House. I said it exposes the rhinos. It takes the fake Republicans and exposes them for who they are, and perhaps remove them when it comes election time. Once you make the conservatives once you make the conservatives stronger, once you expose and remove rhinos, then that's also going to signal to the rest of the folks out there, the voters out there, that look, the House has finally got their crap in order. We need to get more Republicans in Senate, because the Republicans and the conservatives are now passing bills out of Congress. Now we need the Senate to be able to sign off on them also. So we need to change the number of senators up there to more conservatives with R's next to the name that actually vote conservative. So that's the methodology for this happening.
Well, but okay, so you're saying there's only 7 conservatives in the House?
No, that's not what I said. I said it makes the rest of there's more than 7 conservatives. We know you got a group of 20 or 30 rhinos in there that are going to go either way no matter what, right? So those are the ones we have to focus on. Mm-hmm. Those are the ones, because right now we got a majority, but we might as well not have one. It depends on what the bill of the day is. It depends on the deals made between the Democrats and the Republicans for what am I going to give you? What are you going to give me? And we need to start holding true to our values more than to deals that could be made.
So what you're talking about is, rather than trying, it's less about exposing rhinos than it is forcing your caucus to be as one, forcing them to work together, very much in the same way that the Democrats actually get their caucus to stay together. Because in the end, for these rhinos, they're rhinos because they believe that's what they have to be in order to stay in office. And if they believe that if it's either be exposed or it's either be exposed and potentially lose or lose office, in the end, they're going to wind up saying, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and go with this. I'm going to go ahead and vote with it, because in the end, I'm not going to be able to get anything done if I don't work with my caucus. And that, by the way, that's the way it's got to be. I hate to say this, but a strong leader needs to hold his caucus accountable, needs to make sure that if you don't toe the party line, that there is a price to pay. And quite frankly, that has not been the case.
There you go. Agree with you there. Yep.
Anyway, very good points all. Very good points all. I agree with a lot, if not most, of what you had to say. I just think, here's the thing I will say is, it's going to get a lot uglier before it gets better.
I'm all right with that too.
Yeah. All right, moving right along. CCW, sensitive places, on hold. You might know that's a very big thing. What's happening in a lot of liberal municipalities or anti-gun municipalities, they're actually passing legislation that will that basically defines they call themselves conforming the law to fit Bruin, but that's not what they're doing. What they are actually doing is they are passing laws that are defining pretty much most public spaces as sensitive places, so therefore you cannot carry a firearm there. Well, we're seeing here another incident there in Maryland where, a judge has basically taken issue with some of their quote unquote sensitive places laws. It says here, while lawmakers this year removed the good and substantial reason language from Maryland law that the Supreme Court found unconstitutional, Maryland is tightening gun laws to prevent someone from carrying a concealed handgun in certain areas. For example, the law will generally prohibit persons from wearing or carrying or transporting a gun in an area for children or vulnerable adults like a school or healthcare facility. It also prohibits persons from carrying a firearm in a government or public infrastructure area or a special purpose area, which is defined as places licensed to sell alcohol, cannabis, a stadium, museum, racetrack, or casino. Gun rights advocates are challenging the law in federal court, but it's still set to take effect on Sunday. Now, but what's happened is that, as noted here, there has actually been an injunction that has been put in place on some of these sensitive spaces, in particular bars, I believe parks and government buildings.
Yeah, and like you said, they're weaving their way through the Bruin decision, trying to find ways that weren't covered under Bruin. Bruin did everything except say, these are the places, don't contradict us. And they gave some examples, but didn't specify every place that exists in the country, right? And that's what they're doing over on the left. We've seen it in New York, New Jersey, California, Maryland's had it for a while now, where they're coming up with these. Well, let's see, in Bruin, they didn't say health rehabilitation centers, so we'll put that in there. That must be a vulnerable center. It's a distinct lack of acceptance of reality on their part, where they could use the words like, we don't want guns where people are vulnerable. Okay, guess what? That's where you want people with guns, where people are vulnerable, where you've made people vulnerable to attacks by criminals. Okay, that's where you want the law-abiding citizen. They continue to confuse the difference between a law-abiding citizen carrying a firearm and a criminal carrying a firearm. The vulnerable areas, the places they want you not to carry a firearm, are the places most likely you will need a firearm to defend yourself and others. And they continue to purposely get that wrong.
Well, they don't care because they consider anyone who wants to carry a firearm, they consider to be a danger. That's
correct.
Anybody who wants to carry a firearm, no matter if they are law-abiding, no matter if they've gone through background checks, no matter if they've gone through training, they equate you, the law-abiding citizen with a concealed carry permit, they equate you with a criminal, with someone who seeks to do harm to others, who seeks to rob, kill, somebody who seeks to harm others and steal. You're equal in their eyes. So therefore, but you're unequal because the criminal is still going to carry the gun in the place where they don't allow you. The law-abiding citizen has a choice. You either no longer become a law-abiding citizen, you are now a criminal, only because you are violating their new law, their sensitive spaces or sensitive places law, as opposed to, the guy who's going to not only violate that, but is also going to shoot you.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Yep. Agreed. Yeah.
Anyway. But what's refreshing is you're seeing that these sensitive places, these overbearing sensitive places, these things are being thrown out, or at least they're getting an injunction. And trust me, judges don't usually do injunctions unless they believe that the plaintiff is likely to win, right?
Correct.
And right now they're recognizing that harm would be done. And that's the thing. This specifically, Justice Thomas said in Bruin, you can't just give blanket statements and make all places in public sensitive places. You can't do that. And that's exactly what they're doing.
That's what New York did, basically, right? They said, okay, all of Manhattan is a sensitive place. But no,
right.
You don't get to do that. No.
Right. He not only do you not get to do that, the ruling specifically said you don't get to do that.
Well, let's say this. They didn't say all of Manhattan was. What they said, Craig, was all public transport in and out of the island of Manhattan. Well, guess how you get to Manhattan? It's either the roadways, the rail, the air, or the boats. They said you can't have guns there. So how am I supposed to get in and out? It means I can't have it.
Well, dude, in the state of California, like, for example, I can't take my gun to church. How many shootings or attempted active shooter situations have we seen at churches? Right?
Plenty,
I can't take it into
are
public gatherings. What the hell is a public gathering? What counts as a public gathering is how many people are in a public gathering. You can't have it at a demonstration. Well, what if I'm walking down the street and there's a demonstration and I'm carrying? I have nothing to do with the demonstration. Does that mean now I'm in violation of law? How about if I am driving past that demonstration and I'm carrying a firearm? Am I now in violation? I mean, this is the sort of idiotic madness that they're passing. And once again, we now all have to be held accountable for it.
Exactly right.
I was like, now we all got it. We increased the likelihood of ability to be able to carry, but most of us, they've kind of made it kind of useless. Anyway.
Yep.
All right. Moving right along, going back to fire alarm gate. Oh, this is a fun one. So, Jamal Bowman, the Democrat who basically tried to keep them from passing the continuing resolution to keep from shutting down the government. Truth is, if he had actually been successful, he might have saved Speaker McCarthy's speakership, but he was unsuccessful when pulling the fire alarm. And the funny thing is that he tried to say, well, it was an accident. I was trying to get out, and basically his whole argument was, I was too stupid to know that pulling a fire alarm wouldn't open a door. Or I was so stupid, I thought that pulling a fire alarm would open a door. Now, you and I all know that is not the case. I sincerely doubt that he is that stupid. But the very fact that he thinks that we will believe that kind of shows he is probably that stupid. But the worst part is now he's coming back and he's saying, well, he sent out talking points to all of his fellow conservatives. All of his fellow Democrats. He sent out talking points, right, to say, well, let's call them all Nazis. Yeah, that's it. We'll call them all Nazis. It says here, the New York Democrats press secretary sent a memo on Monday afternoon to all House Democrat offices requesting that they defend Bowman for the flap over the alarm, which has prompted a Republican to push to sanction him. A copy of the office's communique was obtained by Politico. One suggested response from Bowman's office to questions about the incident, quote, I believe Congressman Bowman when he says this was an accident. Republicans need to instead focus their energy on the Nazi members of their party before anything else. Now, last I checked, I'm not saying that there aren't any, but I don't recall anybody being identified as a Nazi in the Republican caucus.
In fact, Craig, the closer party ideologically to the Nazi party would be the Democrat Party. The Nazis were the National Socialist Party, right? And now we have people identifying in Congress as the Democrat Socialist Party. All right. So the closer to the Nazi ideology would be the Democrats themselves. So it's almost comical to hear a Democrat to me anyway, to hear a Republican be called a Nazi by a Democrat when the Democrats are the closer ideology to it. This guy Bowman, Craig, he's lying. He's lying. Listen, I did criminal investigations for many years, and you take some people, you listen to what they say, but you knew when it was time to put the screws to them when they did three things. lie, deny, make counter accusations. When they did that, you know they were triple down on their own guilt. And here you go. You got Bowman right here doing lie, deny, make counter accusations.
Well, and what gets me is I'm like, this is their defense on just about everything. If you disagree, no matter how small the thing is or how big the thing is, if you disagree with them, their fallback is always, you're a racist.
Yeah, exactly right.
Because they figure, how are you going to respond to that? How are you going to respond to the fact I'm a racist? You pulled a phylum. It's like, here's the thing. If I were truly racist, if Republicans were truly racist, they would believe that this man was so stupid that he couldn't read the sign that said, this is a fire exit. If you pull the fire alarm, an alarm will go off.
But you know what, Craig? You can't call him stupid because he's black. And if you call him stupid, then you're a racist.
So, I mean, but that's the thing, is that unless you believe that, believe that he is illiterate, I can say illiterate, just claiming that he is illiterate because he can't read the sign that clearly warned. And does that make someone a racist?
No. Again, it's strictly because you're a Republican, which is a predominantly white party. So you can't say anything bad about a black man at all. Otherwise, you're a racist.
Okay. So I can't point out that most school principals, because he was a school principal, would have been able to read that sign.
Perhaps the school he was in was one school, and unlike every other school for the past 65 years, that has had fire legislation in place that clearly marks all things fire and fire related, because we've had no deaths from fires in a public school in 65 years. Perhaps his school, Craig, didn't have that, or their fire alarms were culturally biased.
And you know what? In his defense, only about 25% of the kids in his school were actually, 2/3 of the kids, not 2/3. I'm sorry, 1/3 of the kids in his school, only about 1/3 were actually proficient at reading. So maybe,
well, there you go.
Maybe you had the blind leading the blind, or the illiterate leading the illiterate.
So, right, maybe the sign said "do not pull," but he only 1/3 of the English he can't read, so he thought it said "do pull."
There,
you know.
Okay. I'm look, folks. I'm Democrats. I know you're sitting up here like, but I'm trying to give the man a little credit. Anyway, time for us to move along to our parting shots, brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholster.com and get your Hog Holster today. Remember to use discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces. Get your Hog Holster today. This first one I enjoy because, it's just good stuff. Here you have the Biden-Harris secure border, right? And when you pull it away, guess what you got? You want to describe that one for the folks?
You've got Elon Musk here wearing a doctor's white smock over his scrubs. I don't know what that is, but he's pulls the Biden-Harris secured border poster off the wall, and behind it is the breach in the wall and the American buses waiting to take them away.
Exactly. I've heard stories of Border Patrol officers like high-fiving people as they come across. Anyway.
Yep.
All right. By the way, in defense of Jamal Bowman, he has introduced new legislation according to the Babylon Bee. According to him, this new legislation says Democrats propose $12 billion study to determine what this strange red handle thingy does.
Yeah. It's a fire alarm, folks. It says fire, pull down. Yep.
Hey, $12 billion. They're getting off cheap on that study.
Hey, maybe he thought it said fired, and he was thinking of Kevin McCarthy, and he was trying to pull it down because he got fired.
Oh, well, there you go. Except that was beforehand. Maybe he's like, yeah, I want to fire Kevin. Pull it down.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. There you go. Perfect.
There you go. He's pulling his lever to vote. There you go. That's what it was.
That's what he thought it was. Do I want to fire him? Yes. Pull it down. Yep.
And, here's the deal. And this is a good Twilight Zone moment. Imagine a vaccine so safe that you have to be threatened to take it. For a disease so deadly, you have to be tested to know you have it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
That is where we are these days in the resurgence of the COVID. Interesting stuff.
COVID-23. Yeah.
COVID-23. All right. Well, folks, that's it for today's show. But before we go, we got one more quick shout out to our sponsors.
Yep, Hitman Industries, hitmanindustries.net. Check them out today. You can get rifle or pistol caliber barrels in any length you need for your next AR rifle or pistol build. That's hitmanindustries.net. California Republican Assembly fighting a good fight behind enemy lines. Make sure you check out the California 6th congressional race. And of course, if you're going outdoors, going to the field, going woods, hunting, hiking, camping, whatever it is, you can get everything but the gun over at uscombatgear.com.
Please take a moment, visit our sponsors, and let them know the guys over at The Rundown sent you. And with that, we're going to call it a day, but we will be back tomorrow for Throat Punch Thursday. We'll see you then.